What is going on, beautiful folks? Welcome to another episode of Mornings with Lee Hammock, your favorite self aware narcissist. This morning, we're going to be talking about cultural influence on narcissism. Can culture influence narcissistic people? Can their culture influence who they are and to actually influence their narcissistic traits somewhat? That's a question I get a lot, y'all. And the answer to the question right up next. This weekend, y'all, November 2nd and November 3rd, will be in Dallas and Houston, Texas for our next in-person workshops. You can get registered for Dallas on 11/2, Houston 11/3, mentalhealness.net/events for that right there, y'all. But yes, narcissistic people, culture can have an influence. Religion can have an influence. We all know that most narcissists are created through trauma, right? But it's not always going to be trauma that creates narcissists. There's going to be a lot of different things as well that could absolutely contribute to the creation of the narcissistic person, right? Could contribute to the toxic behaviors or traits and whatnot. But there's always a but, ain't it? Always a big old but. Um, Sometimes it's the culture, y'all. Sometimes the culture can be the influence, like the traits and the behaviors can be part of the culture. Like, and this is not me trying to disrespect anybody's culture or anything like that, y'all. If this is just what I've experienced, this is like anecdotal from the people I've talked to that are part of these cultures and whatnot. The people I talk to that are part of these religions and whatnot, and so on and so forth. Because like, there's a term called machismo for Hispanic people. I think maybe particularly from Mexico. I think, yeah, again, I might be a little culturally ignorant on it, what the beginnings of it and whatnot, but they it just kind of empowers men. You got the male culture, the man strength, the man power, man this, man that. There are cultures that teach people, that instill that women are second class citizens, that women are not as valuable as men and whatnot. So there are men in certain cultures that treat women a certain type of way because that's what's been instilled in them from the beginning. And it looks like narcissism. It could be narcissism. The band definitely could be narcissistic in and of, like, they definitely could have the personality disorder. They definitely could have a lot of the traits, but a lot of times it could absolutely be influenced from their actual culture that they're part of. Y'all like this new look. I got these off of the little TikTok shop or whatever. Trying something new with the hair. For the gym or whatnot. It's my gym cover for sweat and whatnot. But yeah, y'all, it can't. I feel like it can absolutely influence it a lot, and a lot of people tend to agree with me and whatnot when they have experienced it, because, like, no, religion is a big influence on people. Like, it doesn't make you 100% a narcissist, but some people follow certain religions, and the religion says, "Hey, you can treat that person this type of way," or they interpret it that way. They interpret it in a way that allows them to be manipulative and get away with certain things and certain behaviors. It allows them in their minds to excuse and validate certain behaviors and whatnot that they've been actually doing on their partners. They could have been cheating or manipulating or lying or stealing or whatever it is, and they can just find a verse in their whatever religious doctrine that they follow and say, "Hey, this is why I do what I do. You have to forgive me. Only God can judge me," and whatnot. So yeah, culture can absolutely have an influence to make somebody narcissistic, right? It can be the foundation of a narcissist, right? But this is why I say it can have an influence, because not every single person from that culture or from that religion behaves the same way. They don't treat people the same way, right? Because like I had a Pakistani friend. He was Muslim, and he just looked at he of course he misinterpreted the Quran, right? I ended up reading the Quran as well. I read the entire Bible. I read the Quran as well, y'all. And one thing I remember about reading the Quran, it says that, in a court case or whatever, if one man can't be there, bring two women, because women are one woman might forget. He interpreted it as that it takes two women to make one man. So that's what he went off on. He thought that it took two women to make one man, and that's how he treated women. He treated women like, y'all are less than me just because you're a woman, just because you're born that way. He would talk down to him. He would belittle them. He would lie to him. He would cheat on them. He would manipulate them because he felt like they were secondhand citizens. He said that he felt like he was above them and he could do whatever he wanted to them, because based on his misinterpretation of his religious doctrine. You see? But he also was a narcissist. He had his sister didn't behave the same way. They grew up in the same household, same culture. His sister didn't behave the same way. She didn't treat people the same way. You know what I mean? He has a brother. His brother didn't treat people the same way. So sometimes it's just the person. The person already has, like, not only is there abuse and trauma, but sometimes you also have that cultural dynamic as well. It's like you already have a lot of stuff in the pot. Like, there's a lot of stuff in the little cauldron already, in the witch's cauldron of narcissism. There's already a lot of stuff in it, right? But you just adding more things. Like, you can sprinkle in, like, you know how you sprinkle in some salt or some powder or some type of season into your it's getting cold outside, into your Brunswick stew. You know how you can do that? That's what happens with Brunswick stew. That's what happened with narcissistic people with their trauma and stuff like that. You can sprinkle in a little extra, trauma, a little extra abuse, a little something a little different in order to make excuses for certain behaviors and whatnot. You see what I'm saying? In order to finish creating that narcissistic person. So the culture can have an influence, right? But it can also, like I said, it could also be in addition to some trauma. It could also be in addition to some neglect. It could also be in addition to the parent never setting boundaries or anything for the child. The child has no boundaries. They don't tell the child what to do. You know, the child doesn't have any rules set on them, so they feel like they can do and get away with any and everything. So that happens as well. It's not always going to be that space where it's the narcissistic person, whoever, right? It's not always going to be the space where it's trauma. It can be, like I said, it can be from a lack of boundaries, can be from a lack of a lot of different things. So that can play a role in it as well, right? It absolutely can. That's what happens. So I feel like I tell this to people all the time, like, this is what you're going to experience. This is what you might go through, and this is what you might experience when you deal with a narcissistic person. Like, so I was like, again, this is not me trying to warn y'all to not deal with certain people of a certain culture. This is me saying, yes, the culture can have an influence on how things are going. The culture can absolutely have an influence on how things work out. The culture can absolutely have an influence on how people turn out and whatnot. It can, in addition to trauma, in addition to beliefs, because the culture just didn't happen, right? Typically these cultures and these religions have been around for a long time. So the cultures just don't happen overnight. Right. The religious beliefs just don't happen overnight. This is instilled not only in the children, this is instilled in the parents, the grandparents, the great grandparents. Like, this is a generational thing. Like, you pass the culture down. The culture is passed down, right? The religion is passed down from generation to generation and whatnot. So that happens too. So it's not always, like I said, it's not just going to be like a culture, the cultural influence that has anything to do with it. There could be some other things as well that end up leading to this type of stuff happening. They end up leading to this type of things going out. They can end up leading to this person turning out and behaving a certain type of way. So, like I said, it could. This is what could happen. It's not always what's going to happen. This is absolutely be what could happen, y'all. You know what I mean? This would be. That's why I tell people. That's why I tell so many people, when you're dealing with narcissistic people, make sure I check out my website right here. This is the type of stuff that you have to deal with. This is the type of stuff you have to combat. This is the type of stuff that you have to battle. Is just that mindset, right? So many narcissists, so many toxic people have this type of mindset, have this type of dynamic, have this type of clutch going on. So, like, the culture can influence who they are. And y'all, it's very hard. I know you love this person, or you care about this person, but it can be very hard to break up the culture. It can be very hard to dissuade people and whatnot. It can be very hard to go about doing things in a certain type of way. Like, it can be very hard. Like, this culture has been instilled in them, and at 30, 40, 50 years old, it's going to be hard to change those behaviors. Y'all. I'm not saying that there's absolutely zero hope, but I feel like you have to be more realistic in your beliefs. You have to be more realistic in what can and what cannot happen. Right? This person is 75 years old. It'd be hard pressed for them to change their behaviors right now. There's 7.5 decades of behaviors and stuff that they've experienced. 7.5 decades of possible trauma and things like that they might have went through. There's so many moving pieces here that, like, can hold people back. So many moving pieces here that can hinder your healing. There's so many different moving pieces there that can mess with your mind. So this is the type of stuff that you have to deal with. Like, before you try to change this person, before you try to alter who they are and what they have going on, this is the type of stuff that you have to deal with. Like, it's hard to change somebody's culture. It's hard to change somebody's religion. and like it's hard to change their you can't change somebody's religion. You might can change their religious belief down the road, but like this is it. Yeah, some people, their families are so entrenched in it. Everybody's entrenched in this belief, in this culture, in this religion, that it's going to be very hard pressed for them to change their behaviors at all. You know, very hard pressed for them to change their behaviors at all. Maybe 0%. You know, so you have to protect yourself. You have to protect your peace. You have to protect everything overall, y'all. You really, really do. So that's the mindset. That's the mentality. So let me cut this thing short, y'all. Again, November 2nd, Dallas, Texas. November 3rd, Houston, Texas. There's going to be a packed out event. Going to be a lot of people there for you to meet, greet, share your story with, hear other people's stories and whatnot. You get to meet me in person as well. I'm not special, but hey, I'm Lee Hammock. Mental Illness will be in Houston and Dallas, Texas this weekend. Register for that event at mentalhealness.net/events. I will see y'all later. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. And as always, y'all, Mental Illness is out. Oh my goodness. This has just changed up so much. Mental Illness is out, y'all. Peace. Thank you so much for making it to the end of my video. I am extremely grateful for you. Have no idea. If you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Helps reach more people. And click on the screen to watch another video or to browse through another playlist. There's also a link on the screen to check out my courses and my support groups to help you heal and understand what you've been through. Thank you so much again. I will see you in the next video. Peace.